So there you have it. We put all this together to give you, the viewers, and my guests, a clear picture of the leadership stance previously and now. Let me start off with you, Mr. Titus Glover. Were you expecting this explicit statement from the president, like this, what I just played, what he said in 2021? Or because of what's happening in Parliament, now the ball is within the court of Parliament, and the president says, Parliament, do your job. When you're done, I would have the final say to now sign it into law.
Afi, good morning to your good self and to my co-panelists, and to all your viewers out there. I'm your serious fan.
Thank you.
I have to watch Ghana tonight before I go to bed.
Thank you very
much.
much.
And I love watching it so much.
I appreciate it.
You are doing so well. And
thank you.
I like your research that you do before you come and deliver.
Thank you.
And I give a thumbs up.
Thank you
for what you are doing on Ghana tonight.
Close to the team, yeah.
This issue of LGBTQ is an issue Ghanaians have settled on it long ago. Once in a while, people try to bring it up to find out whether indeed the position that we stood as a country has shifted a bit. It has not. It has not shifted at all. When you go into Article 26, 1 and 2, that talks about the promotion of cultures and traditions and all that in 1. The 2 says that those cultures should not be seen to be dehumanizing us. The LGBTQ is a foreign culture being practiced in those countries. So us as Ghanaians and Africans, we have a unique identity. That is why 99.9% of our people are saying that, look, we don't want to go about this. And sometimes I'm happy. I thought you are not going to show the statement made by the president at the Anglican Church in Montpellier. And thankfully you brought it back. It settles the matter.
It settles the matter for you?
It settles the matter. He's an Anglican, a believer of the faith. And by religious practices and cultural practices, we cannot do such things here. As we speak, has Ghana legislated anything on homosexuality? No. It is now that under the private member's motion or bill is being sent to Parliament to make sure there is an act to regulate some of these things in our country. So when he says that the president spoke, the question that was posed to Kamala and the response that the president came in, there's a lawyer here. They've been advocating for human rights and all that. So the human rights angle is what those Westerners and those people who practice these things have been speaking on.
In fact, Kamala Harris said it, that for the United States, this remains a human rights issue, and that's not going to change.
That is them. Kamala Harris, when she came here, didn't she come with her husband? Handsome, thick, tall husband, following her. She even met, this people who don't have access to lawyers. There is a government lawyers, legal aid. He had a program with legal aid where they want to support. She came here with her husband. Why is it that in those Western world, in those Europe and America, they don't entertain polygamy? You don't want your husband to marry more than one, except you. But we as Africans, under the tradition, a man can marry more than one, and it's allowed. But you don't want it, and you want to impose, LPGWSYZ on us as Africans and as Ghanaians. And that is where we try to have the difference amongst us. So clearly, they can do whatever they want to do. But we, so long as we are Ghanaians and Africans, it's not part of us. His Excellency the President, last year, His daughter got married. He gave the daughter's hand in marriage to a man. I have 3 daughters. My first girl will be 27 in April this year. My first son was 37. Just on 26, on Sunday. So you want to tell me that when Nikwate is coming, at this age, the daddy, I found a partner I want to marry, he'll come and present to me a man? Is that the case? Or Nanyoko will come and tell me, Daddy, I've got somebody in my life that I want to marry. She'll come and bring to me a woman? And you call this a human rights issue? Afi, so you want to call this a human rights issue and we should clap as Africans, as Ghanaians, to endorse such a thing? No. So that is why the president is saying, His Excellency the President is saying that, look, it is before the right forum. And what is the forum? It's Parliament. My intervention is when it has been passed. Then I will come in and assent to it. I think the Speaker got the President wrong. Not the President coming to jump into the work that they are doing in Parliament in the passage of the bill, into an act. That is not what the President was referring to. He was referring his intervention when, after they have done the work, it will come before him and he will assent to it.
I think that statement was quite clear.
That is exactly so.
In
so,
what
Mr.
we
Speaker,
played.
you took His Excellency the President wrong. And do you think the President can sit down and say that he's not going to assent to this? It is going to be the political suicidal that he's not going to sign this. And even the members of Parliament, all our members who are there, from both sides, because you are being measured by your constituents. Your inputs that you make and your disapproval against the bill. That is their end. And knowing my colleagues in Parliament, so long as this LGBTQ bill is concerned, there is no way none of them will sit down and say that they are not going to pass the law to make sure that it becomes criminal, it becomes illegal in this country. It becomes illegal and criminal in this country. I am not a lawyer, but sitting from behind and watching, I want to commend everybody who have made positive strides in this business of this LGBTQ and all that. And my younger brother, Nate George, the spear, and Honorable Ntim Fodjo, and all those who publicly have been speaking against this ungodly acts. I give them thumbs up. I give them thumbs up for what they have done. So please, nobody should sit down and say that President Akufo-Addo is in support of gay rights. Not at all. Because he has stated clearly, when the former president, may he so rest in peace, Professor Min spoke, it was clear. President Akufo-Addo has spoken in the Anglican Church, in Mampo Ashanti, it's clear. International diplomacy, sometimes the way they communicate is quite different. His Excellency the President has been a foreign minister before. He understands international diplomacy. Some were expecting him to exert himself to say, hey, we won't do this. No. And he said, look, you look at the human rights angle and the general feeling of the Ghanaian people. And for me, that is profound. And what is the feeling of the people? The feeling of the people is the fact that it's against our tradition, it's against our religious beliefs, both Islam, Christian, and traditional religion. So clearly, for me, the president has made it clear. Nobody should come and dictate to us as to how we want to handle this anti-gay legislation. And I saw on social media yesterday between Lawyer Fu Amweni and one Professor Tichu Menu, and in fact, lawyer Fu Amweni made another profound statement. Afi, he said, Madam, the way you spoke, I want to know where you are coming from. He is from Cape Coast and Central Region, but he wants this debate to be made in where this professor is coming from, right in the center of where she comes from, so that they throw it back to the people. Whether this human rights matter that they are talking about is the right way to go. So seriously, okay. I think that let us tread cautiously, allow the right forum, that is the Parliament, to look at this matter and listen to Nate George. When I heard him, one of the interviews, the article is less than 20. Maybe Arega can help us. Within few hours, they can look at it and deal with this matter, and let's settle it. Okay. And my convention tells me immediately the act is before the president, he was sent to it.
Okay, thank you. So these are initial comments on this matter, and let me just say that we have the 18-page document that this Committee on Constitutional, Parliamentary and Legal Affairs Committee that was charged with looking into this bill, the recommendations that they have made to the bill, some changes that they have recommended be made to the bill. We have a copy of it. We'll run through. But joining us now is also Member of Parliament for the Boko Central Constituency, Mama Yarga. He is also a private legal practitioner. So I have two lawyers in studio to deal with this matter, plus a former Member of Parliament. Mama Yarga, thank you for joining us. I know it's been a short night for you. Parliament went on recess at 2 a.m. So we appreciate you coming, having less than 4 hours of sleep. Thank you for coming. Good morning.
Good morning.
And the unfortunate incident involving one of your colleagues, the Deputy Minister of Agric, who is also a Member of Parliament, who was involved in that ghastly accident. We have pictures of that accident, and yeah, and the mangled vehicle. How is he doing? I'm sure yesterday we saw the ambulance taking him. Where exactly did the accident happen?
Good morning to you and colleagues here, and my brother. And congratulations. I haven't congratulated you since your appointment. So we're in the chamber. So the report I got was that the accident happened around the Ghana Institute of Journalism turning.
Just right behind Parliament.
Yeah, just right behind Parliament, the GIG area. Apparently, he was speeding to Parliament to get the vote, and I think when he got to that turn, and I don't know what happened, and he got involved in the accident there. He was brought to Parliament in an ambulance, and then subsequently he was driven to a hospital. As you know, we closed at 2 a.m. this morning, so I haven't heard much about him yet. One of our colleague MPs, who is a medical doctor, escorted him to a hospital. I believe it was SNIT or somewhere very close by, and then came back. But he had a cut, I think, on the forehead. Beyond that, we don't have any report of exactly what his condition is. But I wish him a speedy recovery.
I see. And we as we go on, we would just show you pictures and videos of what we got last night. And indeed, it was quite worrying. Why is this the case that every sitting, the last day, you pack a lot of things, and you have to stay up to 2 a.m. I've always wondered why.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the problem usually comes from the government side. Very often, it is difficult to get all government ministers under one roof, especially those who are members of parliament. Because of government business, ministers tend to travel and move around a lot. So anytime that you have these issues, the tendency is to wait till the last 2 or 3 days of the session, when there's an effort to freeze all government travels so that the ministers can participate in the process. And that was my experience when we were in government. And I believe that it's a culture that is ongoing, a practice that is ongoing. It's unfortunate that we do that to ourselves, especially in this situation where you need all the votes. You know, if you observe the voting pattern yesterday, 136, 137, 136, 137. So if one person is absent, it will create a problem. And so we tend to wait. Sometimes leadership will wait till the last day, and then they're trying to do everything before we leave. And it's most unfortunate because on those occasions, it puts a lot of pressure on parliamentarians. But it's become a culture. We've become used to it. So yesterday was one such day when, in fact, but for protest, we probably would have been there till this morning.
I've been there till this morning.
Yeah, because there are a couple of loan agreements that the government wanted us to take, and colleagues in the chamber protested, and finally the speaker had to give a ruling asking that we should adjourn, and this was way after 1 a.m. So we probably would have been there till maybe 4 a.m. or something of that sort. So it's unfortunate, and our colleague yesterday, most of us who were fasting left the building to go and then break the fast. Yes, break the fast and say our prayers and then come back. I recall that I was in somewhere airport residential area where I normally join one of my brothers to break the fast and pray. When I called one of our colleagues, Zaneto, Honorable Zaneto, to find out if they had resumed sitting, and she was like, hurry and come, we have resumed sitting and you need to be here. And then I also took off in a similar fashion with speed to get to the chamber. So I believe that Honorable Tuferu wanted to wait and pray and finish praying before coming. And so that is what would have accounted for he being so late, and then, you know, trying as hard as he could to get to Parliament to be able to vote. One of our colleagues almost missed out on the vote, and she ran into the chamber, and you could see her panting and struggling to catch her breath, and was the subject of a lot of laughter and jokes. So last night was quite an interesting one.
Indeed.
For many of our colleagues. People had been there from morning and we were tired. I mean, we could have actually finished earlier if we were serious, because we had the whole day. And the whole day we did virtually nothing. We actually started the sitting in the evening.
Wow.
Because the whole day was just, you know, the usual statements and questions to ministers and etc. Yeah, those ones are important, but it wasn't really the priority business of the day. The priority business of the day was to work on these tax bills and the loans that government wanted us to consider for them.
I see.
Let me
thank
come
you.
in quickly before lawyer comes in. Aiga, you recall in the days of Okwe, Professor Okwe, Right Honorable Speaker, I think 2017 or 2018, we closed that early.
Yeah.
By 2 o'clock, we are done. But like he said, sometimes how to get from our side,
together,
you know, is always a problem. Maybe they're out of town, how you can come early and come and contribute and all these things.
I see.
But you see, sometimes when the public are bashing members of parliament, they don't know what goes into it. Ignorantly or something, forgive me of my choice of words, they don't know the sacrifices that members of parliament put into the work that they do. And people sit back and they say all kinds of things against MPs. Just Thursday, Baswa, may his soul rest in peace, was very strong, very active, only to be rushed on Thursday evening. And Friday when he was being expected to take part in that vote, they couldn't see him, and today is no more. I want to say this to my MPP supporters. This is the price of skirt and blouse. Of course.
Okay.
This is the price of skirt and blouse. If you don't look at the symbol, even if you have a problem with Ayarga, because it's an NDC, you have a problem with it, look at the symbol.
Okay.
And you go and vote against the choice. And because you think if the numbers are more, he would have taken his time. But you had to rush.
Right.
Because the difference is just a vote. Now look at the price he has paid for it.
But
Speed recovery.
we understand he's well. He's actually okay, being taken care of, getting medical attention. So that's for the Member of Parliament for Nantong and Deputy Food and Agric Minister Alhaji Mohammed Hadi Tufera there. But it's an issue we'll come back to because a number of things happened in Parliament as well, regardless of the numbers and what had happened. So bring back to this LGBTQ matter. And you are one of the foremost human rights lawyers in this country. So when the United States talks about this remains a human rights issue for them.
Yes.
President Akufo-Addo in his response to Kamala Harris says, you know what, Parliament is dealing with this matter. And when they are done, it would come before me to decide what to do. The sensitivity to human rights is an issue Parliament will take into consideration, as well as the sensitivity of the Ghanaian people as well. So, really, where does the human rights conversation end for our traditions and sensitivities and concerns of the people as well to take over?
Hey, Mr. Kansi, look, this particular matter, the way you began it, that I'm one of the foremost human rights lawyers, hey, it was like,
the case, is it
I'm
not?
being rated, please. No, I look, to be very frank with you, I don't intend to go into the merits of the debates for LGBTQ, okay? Yes, no, I don't, because you see, I've made comments on it in the past. Yes, so briefly stating that, yes, if some people want to fight for it, it's within their rights to fight for it. But the reason I'm no longer interested in joining this debate aggressively is that the people who practice LGBTQ, they don't want to show their faces. So I'm like, how am I going to advocate for a faceless person? So that's the disconnect.
Are they an ass?
That one, if we use it, they will feel offended. So I beg you, will not listen. So, like, it's a very sensitive matter. But you see, I've been crying here Saturday to Saturday that the Ghanaian doesn't want to fight. So this is another of that. Because, look, privately, I've seen big lawyers. Yes, there are big lawyers involved, big lawyers who are gay, and they can't fight for themselves. And you are saying people actually come and fight. No. You can't fight everything. There are big lawyers, I'm telling you on authority.
I see.
Big lawyers involved.
In this country?
Yes, and they don't want to show their faces.
Big lawyers?
Yes, who are gay. So if at least come up, let's see you. Explain your situation.
You want them to come out openly?
Yes, they have to come out.
The big lawyers you are talking about?
Yes, they are involved. Not only lawyers, all doctors, all shades of profession. You know, even it's in the Bible. It didn't start the honorable. I'm sure you're laughing because you know it. So you see the thing, the Ghanaian won't fight for anything. So every day people come and sit here and talk. I beg you. I've been telling some of them privately that if we would even get 50 of them, snap a picture, come out, come and address a press conference. You see, when they speak, then we will see. You see, they will evoke compassion. Then some of us can begin to speak. But when you are in your closet, then I come and sit here, beg, you have a right, you have a right. Who am I talking for? Yes, I understand that sometimes there are reprisals, all right, if you say you be gay and the rest. But that is part of the fight. That is part of the fight. Sometimes there are reprisals, but I'm not aware. You may correct me if somebody was shot to death because he's a gay.
There's been instances and reports of some of them who have been attacked.
But yes, so it's part of the fight.
Others who have been arrested and so on. So because of the position of our culture and tradition, would it be advisable to have them show their faces and say, you know what, I'm a lawyer, big lawyer, big whatever.
Medical
I am in it.
doctor. Yes.
Medical doctor. This is me. I'm an LGBTQ person.
Yes.
You want them to do that
Yeah, they
regardless
have
of
to.
the position of the society and the possibility of being exposed to harm?
No, it's not everyone who will suffer harm. When you see a lawyer, when let's say the few that I know who are gay, when they come out,
You know them.
yes, then you see that their clients will see that, oh, but the lawyer is brilliant. He's handled my cases. He gives advice. This is it. So what he does in his bedroom, why should I look through the keyhole to see what happens? You see, then the conversation changes. Yes, that's how it is. So you come out of the closet. Honorable. That's it. So because now, once you are not coming out, when you want to advocate, then you rather become even the face of the fight. And I say the fights are many. As I sit here, Mr. Okansi, the first fight I'm very passionate about is that citizens are hungry. Citizens can't buy food. Oforiatta and President Akufo-Addo have made money from the bonds through data bank. And we are quiet. That's my most passionate fight. That citizens can't buy food. Look, Gari is now far more expensive. Yam is far more expensive. Okay? Cooking oil, etc. Food is expensive. Even gobe. You remember Honorable Sam George's example. People do 001. They break, they can't buy food to eat and all that. So that fight even, we haven't had enough people to join. We are not fighting that much. And I say I should divide the energy and now go and fight LGBTQ. No. The big lawyers involved, let them come out. When they come, then perhaps we can lend them a bit of energy. But right now, look, day in, day out, I meet people in court and they say, lawyer, fight harder. We are dying. Lawyer, fight harder. We are starving. Times are very hard. Look at the price of petrol. Look at diesel, etc. When these people said from what? Taxation to what? Production. Baumia, we are going to do production.
In fact, that's one of the issues in that revenue bill which we will get into.
So that is the topic. We should spend all the time on them.
I wanted to find out where, for you, and back to that question of where the human rights argument ends in this whole LGBTQ matter.
Hey, Mr. Okansi, it's the same thing you are asking me to do. I beg you. No, listen, we've said it simply. The general statement I'll go with is that, look, to the extent that they are human, right? If they come out and they fight, the Constitution will protect them. So that one, yes, it exists. If they come out and they fight, the Constitution will protect them. Even Ghana Police Service is on record to have said in the past that it will protect LGBTQ people. Yeah, Ghana Police.
If you say the Constitution will protect them when they come out,
yes,
what do you mean? Which
so that's the
exactly?
one I'm saying. No, I beg you. Me, I'm here to talk about hunger.
Okay.
I'm here to talk about
you don't want
high
to tell
cost
us
of living.
which provision
we are
is
starving
in
and
there.
dying. That is what the fight is about. Bondholders have not been paid. Oforiatta is doing shakara, all right? Playing tricks, delaying payments, not paying. People are angry. People can't buy food. They can't buy medication. That is what we want to talk about.
Okay. Well, we'll still stay on it because your pedigree as a human rights lawyer is well respected and documented, and that's why I would refer to you as that.
The food, but not the food, man. You know,
it's all part of it.
self-preservation. Yeah,
it's all part of it.
Food, shelter, clothing. So I'm talking about food first.
And this one too is also of concern
yes,
to the
so
Ghanaian
let me
people.
finish food. When we are done with food.
But your position is that the LGBTQ persons who identify with it should come out openly.
Yes.
They should show
then the
their
conversation can begin.
They
A
should
real
show.
conversation. Yes, that's it. If you don't come out, it's difficult to fight for them.
Okay.
We need faces.
Okay.
So I say I'm fighting for lawyer X, and lawyer X is also fighting. Not that lawyer X is in his bedroom watching us this morning, and then it's like, oh, people, talk more or that. No. Lawyer X, you two, you need to step out. You two, come out. Come out.
Right.
You can't hide in your bedroom and they say, people should come and stand here and take all the blues for you. It doesn't work that way.
Mama Yariga, you're also a private legal practitioner as well, speaks on human rights issues. I mean, that point about if they do come out and show their faces, which lawyer Martin Gbebo is advocating, that the lawyers and all
The
the
doctors,
other
the
doctors and all those people
businessmen,
whom
tycoons.
you've met some of them privately.
Yeah.
They should come out publicly, and they'll get some protection based on some provisions in our constitution. Is it the case?
Well, I mean, the issue of LGBTQ
The alphabets
plus,
are quite a lot.
yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one for our country. Let me start from my colleague, Kwebo. If you're a human rights advocate, you can't say that people should come out before you will advocate for them. I'm sure you're just finding a convenient way to avoid discussing this matter.
Oh, no, I've always been saying it. Yes, it didn't start today.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
That's been your position. Well, I mean, in the first place, it's illegal in Ghana to engage in, excuse me my language, anal sex. It's already a crime. Okay. The legislation seeks to widen the area of the law because the law says nothing about people living that as a lifestyle, just living it as a lifestyle. The law is presently silent. And what this bill seeks to do is to define LGBTQ in all its dimensions, and then seek to, criminalize it. The issues relating to the president and the vice president of the United States, I think the concern of a lot of people is that they expect the president to be upfront with the vice president of the United States when she brought the matter up and just indicate to her that, look, the people of my country are against this practice. Straightforward. I mean, so that she knows the sentiments of Ghanaians, because the expectation is that he has to appreciate that no matter his skills and knowledge in diplomacy, he also represents the country. And overwhelmingly, the people of the country are against that. And in several countries, not just U.S. vice presidents, even U.S. presidents have been met squarely by African presidents, telling them in the face that their people are against LGBTQ and anything that, goes with it. So Ghanaians were expecting the president to strongly advocate their position before the vice president, but he chose, as my colleague wants us to believe, to be diplomatic about it and actually create the impression that he might be able to do something about it when it ultimately gets to him after Parliament has passed it. I think basically that is the debate, that is the concern that I hear. And that is what Speaker Bagwin was trying to put across. And truth be told, generally Ghanaians are against LGBTQ, and my colleague here has just expressed very strongly the thinking and how much many Ghanaians feel about LGBTQ. And I don't see how it will not pass in the Parliament, because the MPs are representing their constituents. And given that our constituents are overwhelmingly against it, it will be difficult for any member of Parliament to be seen not voting in favor of it. And I don't see how it will not pass in the Parliament, because the MPs are representing their constituents. And given that our constituents are overwhelmingly against it, it will be difficult for any member of Parliament to be seen not voting in favor of it. And I don't see how it will not pass in the Parliament, because given that our constituents are overwhelmingly against it, it will be difficult for any member of Parliament for this particular bill. Of course, people are going to ask that some caution should be taken into consideration. The Attorney General presented some opinion on certain issues. The committee took that on board. The committee, even members of the committee, including myself, we traveled to The Hague. We traveled to The Hague on some other program, but we knew that somehow it was partly just to draw our attention to the bill that is before us, which is the
proper
sexual human values bill. So international pressure has been mounting. We've taken all those into consideration. We also have an elaborate chapter on fundamental human rights in our Constitution. And you cannot pass a law that violates those provisions of the human rights provisions. So we've looked at all those ones. But even if we make a mistake and then pass a law that violates those rights in the Constitution, any citizen can actually go to court and set aside those provisions of the Constitution that violate those rights. So I see many of the issues ending in the courts.
The issues about
many of the provisions
in this LGBTQ, anti-LGBTQ bill
may end up in the courts, because what is going to happen is that we will pass it in Parliament. Somebody is going to be arrested and sent to court. And in the trial, the person is going to even raise the constitutionality of those provisions of the Act and say, look, this provision of the Act violates so and so provision of the Constitution of Ghana. And then it's going to be an interesting constitutional law litigation pertaining to the fundamental human rights provisions of the Constitution. So the matter won't end today. The matter might not end with the simple passage of the law. And also, you know, the reason why Ghanaians perhaps are worried about the sentiments expressed by the president is that people feel the sentiments do not reflect a very committed executive. Impression is that the executive is not too committed to this enterprise of dealing with members of the community if the law is passed. And you see, the legislature can only pass laws. The executive, you know, is the one that executes the laws. So people feel that you might just pass a law and then it won't be executed, because you may have an executive that is not really committed to the law. But let's not also deny the fact that the LGBTQ plus blah, blah, blah community have constituted themselves into a very powerful lobby, international lobby, and they are exerting pressure around the globe. I mean, you can imagine having the Vice President of the United States come into your country and then raise the issue with you at the time when you are globetrotting, begging for consideration to be allowed a package under the IMF, and then, you know, you are trying very hard to restructure your debt, and you're all over the place begging, and then the Vice President descends on you, Vice President of the U.S. descends on you on LGBTQ issues. Most people will try as much as possible to avoid the subject matter and appear non-committal in the matter. And I think that is what is going against the president as we speak. But the issues are straightforward. Ghanaians are against it. I believe the members of parliament, if the matter is being put to a vote, will vote approving the bill as it is and pass on the responsibility to the executive.
So you say that for you, how things are going to play out, a number of the issues may end up at the Supreme Court for interpretation, regardless of this particular law reflecting the sentiments of the people. Okay, so will the Supreme Court, or can the Supreme Court rule in terms of interpretation regardless of how the people feel? Because this bill essentially is based on the traditions and culture and the sentiments of the people, which you say is going to influence how you, members of parliament, will vote on this matter. If somebody feels not too good about this and challenges some of the provisions of this bill at the Supreme Court, will the Supreme Court take a different route?
Well, you know, there's an area of human rights jurisprudence that the students of human rights jurisprudence will tell you is called cultural relativism.
Cultural relativism?
Yeah, cultural relativism, because the human rights has often come up against the cultures, norms, and values of societies. And these matters, either at international fora or in the courts, have to be resolved one way or the other. So what we are doing now is actually one such case of people's cultures, religious values, traditions, going against what people in the West consider as human rights. So our Constitution has a chapter on fundamental human rights, but there's no right to marry another man, and there's no right for a woman to marry another woman. There's nothing there in the Constitution that talks about that. But in places like the US, in some states, not the entire US, even in the US, there are states that totally disagree with a claim that gays have rights to practice those things that they practice. And so even in the US, it's not something that has become universal. The US, they are as equally politically divided on the matter, just as we are here, you know, as a country against the West generally. Just as in, you know, the Arab world, you know, this is a no-go area, and if you are caught, you might actually suffer the penalty of death. Even the Catholic Church, I'm told, is taking quite a hard stance. I don't know if what I've been reading is actually accurate.
The Pope is very sympathetic to them.
Well, but
the Pope personally.
But the church, how about the church? Well, what is the attitude of the church itself in relation to the issue? So there's this contestation out there, and I'm saying that, in my opinion, how it might play out is we will pass the law, and then some people will be arrested, and then when they go to court, they will be struggling to defend themselves. And one of the issues that they are going to bring up is to relate it to the human rights discourse, and then now put the matter squarely before the courts to fine-tune the law relative to the human rights provisions. I don't know how the courts will, you know, manage the situation, but the courts are not immune to the political pressures, the social pressures, the religious influences of their churches and their mosques, and their traditional belief systems and institutions, and their own, you know, human values, if I may put it that way. So, you know, it's going to be a long haul. So those pushing shouldn't just think that it will end with the passage of a legislation. It's going to be a long haul. And I think that there's a clear determination by the Ghanaian society to prevent a situation where we allow the community to function and operate in such a way that they will influence young people because it's built around influence.
Indeed.
And if you allow people to live it and express themselves, as you may find in some cultures in Europe, the fact of they living it and expressing themselves to younger people has a tendency to influence those younger people. And that basically is what this legislation is seeking to do, to prevent you from being able to express it. You know, as it is now, people are engaged in gay, lesbian activities, but it is covert. They are hiding and doing so. But there's a push to allow them to do it openly. And the fear is that if you allow them to do it openly, then you will have a difficulty managing the influence that they can have over the younger generation. For those who are old and grown and have gone past their formative years, they might be able to prevent themselves from getting lured into these things. But for the younger ones, so really it's a fight to protect the younger generation. So that is what I think it is.
See, but even regardless of this, I mean, that influence is actually ongoing. I mean, maybe I would agree to the extent that if it is now allowed to be done openly, the extent of influence may be more. But there are so many means that young people are being influenced to do so many things virtually, that's through the internet. And so if you're preventing them doing it openly, there is also these other means that they can be influenced, which will not be open, but they would eventually, the end objective of their being influenced would happen.
Well, that's true. I mean, you watch movies and you will find likable characters playing the role of LGBTQ community members. So you're watching a movie that you really like, and then a certain character that you are made to like, because that's how movies are done. A certain character
In
that
fact, there are actually some cartoons.
Yes, you are made to like, ends up, presenting he or herself as a member of that community. And so it has a way of influencing your thinking about it. And, cartoons and other, media that people use to shape the minds of young people. So that is happening. And the idea of this legislation, as much as possible, is to prevent those things from happening. Now, like you said, there are all sort of, activities in bars, in nightclubs, we've been told about LGBTQ parties, that happen in Ghana. I mean, since we started looking at this bill, we've received, presentations, and we've had hearings involving people who have taken us through what is happening in the country and why they want this legislation passed. So there is a huge move. There's a huge move to convert people, to convert young people into the community, and it is fast, growing in terms of adherents and practitioners, and quite scary, if you ask me, and that is what is driving parliamentarians as they push for this legislation, and that is why I say that people's concern, following listening to the president, is that they do not see a commitment, a clear expressed commitment. And so the question really is, if you go through all the trouble to pass this legislation and there's no such commitment in enforcement, what really will you be achieving? I think that's one thing. But then also there are those who think that the language of the bill and the way that it has been expressed is so broad, and then it will also incite people to get violent on LGBTQ community members. And so if you look at Amnesty International reports on Ghana, they've persistently highlighted instances of violations of the rights of people alleged to be members of the LGBTQ community. But that's what will happen if the law enforcement agencies don't act. The law enforcement agencies don't act, the communities will act. The communities will resort to, imposing the penalties themselves. So
the police service is determined to protect them.
They will resort to
them.
lynching and attacks and beatings and all sorts of maltreatment if the law enforcement agencies do not sit up and then perform their responsibilities under the law. So that is what we might end up seeing if we don't have a very committed executive to implement the law when it is passed.
Okay. Yes, you come in and then we'll go to some of the proposed amendments to the bill by the committee. Yes.
On the contrary, I was expecting my senior to give us that firm assurance from the committee level, because I know he serves on that committee and on the constitutional, legal, and parliamentary affairs, that his fear is that when this law is enacted, the executive would not be as forceful as it is. That committal is not there for them to make sure it is dealt with it appropriately. When a law is passed, the police and the court are there to make sure that execution is done about it. But clearly, my brother, this human rights angle that they talk about, there are so many human rights going on in this Western world. So many of them. And they seem to gloss over it and to focus on this LGBTQ, this gangsterism that is going on all over the place. Shooting people anyhow. Martin, is that not a human rights matter?
The gun epidemic in the US.
I mean, what are we talking about? Innocent children, their teachers are being shot because somebody just walked in, held a gun, and start killing. What is more serious than this one? So I'm lost as to who determines what a human right matter is. That is the kind of debate we need to go and engage. Who determines the human rights?
Easy. Socrates will tell you that the law serves the interest of the stronger.
You understand?
And the US is stronger than you.
So clearly, we have an issue. And lawyers, I'm happy I'm learning a lot from my friends here because they are lawyers. And this human rights angle, when lawyers are speaking, they are careful because of their training and their practice. You see that when you push them too much, like Martin is saying, he's scared to speak on it because he wants the people openly to show their faces.
Yes.
But you want to tell me that my daughter Nanyoko should walk to me one morning, one afternoon, one evening, that I have a partner. And when the partner comes to me, this is a woman partner. Gabriel walks to me. Benjamin walks to me. Kwatelai walks to me. Kwatioko walks to me. Nakwale walks to me. Daddy, this is my partner. Jesus Christ. And the West want to force this thing on us. My friend, let us be clean and let us be sincere. You don't need to falter the president too much. He has said it, that under his watch, this practice can never, this ungodly act can never happen. So please, let's give him that credit. Let's give him that benefit of that doubt. If the law is passed and it's left for him to assent and he's not assenting, that is where you're going to have something to do with it. But knowing him and the feeling of our people that he said that he's not going to assent to it, I disagree. So for me, I am careful. I am patiently waiting for my colleagues to do the needful. And I know they will do the needful. And all those who has been heard by the committee, in fact, for the public audience who have met the committee, for them to make their case, whether civil society organizations, whether the religious angle, Christian, the Muslim, those I didn't see is the traditional people who could not come.
Yes.
And for me, the debates and the strongness at which everybody is making this case is good for me. But I enjoyed the debate with Professor Techua and the Moses Fuamweni on social media. But he was heated because the woman was hitting him too much. But you know, in that part of the bill, I know they've made some arrangements, particularly those with medical conditions.
Yes.
People with some medical condition, hermaphrodites or whatever. There are some medical procedures that the bill will allow them when it's passed into a law, will allow them to go through that medical procedures to have that correction done. That is fine. Now, the issue also about those who genuinely can come out, like Martin was saying earlier, that if you admit that, look, you are gay, you are homosexual, and you openly admit that, look, I have a challenge and I need a support. I'm told the bill also has some provision in that angle. Even when you are sentenced to prison, you can be supported to make sure they assist you to come out of that. So I think it is not a bill that Professor Techua would say it's a hate bill. That is the way she described it. You know, and the sentencing regime, I'm told, has been reduced from 5 to 3 years. So all these
because
things...
it's a misdemeanor, is it
It's
not?
a misdemeanor,
And
you know.
so that's what the position of the law
so
is.
for me, some of us, I'm in full support that we should enact a law that should guide us into some of these practices.
Okay.
And the only way we can cure this is because these guys, when they are coming with a force. And the way they lure people into these, their practice that they do, we can use the religious platforms in the mosques, in the churches, you know, in our schools. We need to let our children know that this is not something that we need to inculcate into our schools. Then also in place, let us hold drama, and let the children know. NCC, what is their role? This is something that they need to move out. And let them know that this is not something we should accept as a country. If they know it's a good thing, why are they hiding? Avi, if they know this practice is something good, why are you hiding?
That's why Martin Kpebu says they should
be
show
open.
their faces.
God has blessed us with this nice thing. We enjoy it so good. It's a therapy.
What?
I mean, both different sexes. Look at how God has blessed us with such a thing. Then you go and take man to man.
Let's because we have a member of the committee charged with the work of actually looking at this bill, the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee of Parliament. The Honorable Mama Yaga is a member of that committee. These are some of the recommendations the committee has made after this period of sitting and hearing the various interest groups as well. It's an 18-page document. We cannot go through all of it. There are some specifics that we've picked out. Here's what you have. The first one is that the title of the bill itself, the name, the committee has proposed that it be changed. Promotion of Proper Human Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Family Values Bill. The Attorney General's legal opinion is that the word proper is subjective and all laws passed by Ghana apply to Ghanaians unless otherwise stated. So the change that the committee has proposed to this is that the name be changed to Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill and not Proper Human Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Family Values. So they've taken out the proper and the Ghanaian. That's the proposal they're making. The second one is that the long title, an act to provide for proper human sexual rights and Ghanaian family values bill, prescribe LGBTQ plus and related activities, prescribe propaganda of advocacy for or promotion of the LGBT. So here's the alphabets we are dealing with. LGBTQQIAAP plus and related activities. So it's not even just the short one Nico Ateta to Glover has been talking about. The AG's legal opinion is that an act to provide for human sexual rights and family values bill and related matters. So the name changed to an act to provide for human sexual rights and family values and related matters. Here's the third one as well that they are proposing. That this act applies to a person who has a biological anomaly, including a person who is intersex. So the I in the alphabet is the intersex. What the Attorney General's legal opinion is that, in his view, was that the criminalizing of the intersex breaches Article 17 of the Constitution on non-discrimination and argues that the condition could be a biological disorder. That's the intersex. So that intersex clause has actually been deleted. And the committee agrees biological anomalies, including intersex, may be congenital and not necessarily LGBTQ. So what went into this? So that this particular one, that you agree with the AG that the intersex be taken out of this?
Well, I mean, they are not fundamental. Things that were not really fundamental to the objective of the proponents of the bill, they agreed with, they compromised on, and then if it will satisfy the AG, and then we can move on as a committee, why not? Like the long title, the short title, in my opinion, all those are really not fundamental.
So
what is fundamental
will
is
not have any material effect?
What is fundamental is the core issues that the bill seeks to do. One, the bill is clear on the fact that people of the same sex cannot legally marry in Ghana. Okay? People of the same sex cannot legally marry in Ghana. Two, that you cannot live a life that is associated with being a member of the LGBTQ community. But if it turns out that your situation is induced by a medical condition, I get the situation, then of course you are not blameworthy for it. And therefore we cannot criminalize a condition that is induced by a medical condition. And so we must exercise those provisions of the bill that, leave room for people whose conditions are induced by a medical condition to end up being caught in the net. That's the whole objective.
I see.
That's the whole objective. So if you come and you make a case that, no, this could actually be medically induced, so if you leave it this way, then innocent people will just go and get punished. Then the committee felt that, well, if that is the case. So those are the issues. But the core fundamental issues have remained unchanged in the bill.
I see. Because in this case, the intersex that you agree with the AG that it be taken out, we're talking about people, the intersex people are individuals born with any of several sex characteristics, including chromosome patterns, gonads, or genitals that, according to the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, do not fit typical binary notions of male or female bodies.
Yeah.
So these are males who behave like females.
Who have physical characteristics.
Who have physical characteristics of a female.
And for behavior, you can adopt the behavior.
so you and vice versa.
Yes.
So that you agree that they should not be captured in this?
Yes, because, it's no fault of theirs. Criminality must have a mens rea.
Okay.
You can't pass a criminal legislation that doesn't take into consideration that the two principal components of every criminal act is the act itself and the mental disposition of the person acting. So if you can show that, there's no mens rea, how are you going to make it a crime?
I see. There are a few more. And lawyer, I'll come to you. Okay, well, right on the others. Yes, indeed. There are a few more. So this is it. The sixth one, criminalize sexual intercourse between same sex and a man or woman and an animal, as well as pansexual, and made a second-degree felony. The AG's position was that such conduct is already criminalized under the Criminal Code, Act 29, but could be expanded to cover lesbianism. The proposed punishment has to be aligned with Act 29. So there are a number of changes that you propose to this particular position of the bill, that sex between and among females should be criminalized. So previously, lesbianism was not part Okay, so now you propose it's been included. Marriage between a person and an object has also now I see. So that's another proposed amendment. So now the marriage between a human being and an object has also been proposed to be criminalized. Redefined as a misdemeanor to align with the sentencing regime, so of not more than 3 years. That's what we spoke about. So pansexual replaced by bisexual. So that then covers these acts of lesbianism and a whole lot. There was one about the publishing of materials. That's a person who uses the media or technological platform to publish and disseminate materials directed at a child commits an offense and is liable to a term of imprisonment of not less than 6 years and not more than 10 years. So that's severe. It goes beyond that, the 3 years we were talking about. So
You know that, so I told you earlier that the real problem we are facing is an increasing effort to recruit young people.
Indeed.
And people use...
That is the focus.
Yeah, that's really the focus, to be frank with you. The focus is how do we prevent this, because we know the community exists, okay? Community exists, and they are trying as much as possible to lure young people, to recruit young people through financial inducements, through some forms of advocacy, through some social media publications, to try as much as possible to get people into that community.
Right.
And so, fundamentally, the focus is how do we as a country also prevent that from happening? So this is really the focus of the bill. I mean, the fact of, carnal knowledge of men by men, and natural carnal knowledge of men by men has been an offense in our statute books for decades. It's not disputed. But how many people have been prosecuted? Give me the statistics.
Very few.
Are you getting the situation? I don't know how many instances of successful prosecutions we have. And especially when both of them are guilty of the offense, if successfully prosecuted. And then they do it behind closed doors.
Right.
Are you getting the situation? Prosecution becomes very difficult in these matters. Two young ladies in a room. Prosecution becomes very difficult in these matters. So what you really can do is to fight the advocacy, to fight the efforts to co-opt people into the community. And this is a significant focus of the bill. What he's saying about the difficulty if he as a parent is sitting there and then his daughter comes and says, I'm coming to introduce to you my partner, and then the partner turns out to be another young lady. I have seen it.
You've seen it happen
I have
before.
seen it happen. I will not mention the country, but I had a friend from that country. And then I visited the country and visited his family. And, I observed some happenings around the table. And then later on, I was with the father alone. And he started explaining to me how one day he was sitting, and then the son came, and, because he's observed that the son has been behaving in a funny way. So he sat him down, so if there's anything, tell me, open up to me and tell me. And then one day the son came with another stout-looking man.
Wow.
And said, this is his partner he has fallen in love with.
Can you imagine?
And in that country, it is legally permitted.
I see.
But not in Africa.
No, not in Africa, somewhere in Europe. And, he had to accept and that kind of thing. Clearly, he didn't like it, but because there it is legally permitted, he had to accept, So what really we are seeking to do is to send a signal that this will not be permitted here. And of course, the part relating to lesbians, if people recall how this whole thing started, This whole thing started when a human rights organization was setting up to do advocacy on gay, lesbian rights, if you recall, rights. And in the chamber, I was the one who got up and told my colleagues in my contribution to the statement that because they didn't know the law, they were assuming that many of the things are offenses, and therefore people cannot do advocacy. But that I was telling them that they should go and do their research properly. Many of those things, as we speak, are actually not offenses in Ghana. So unless they go and propose a legislation that criminalizes those things, those people have a right to go and do advocacy.
I see.
That was how it started. So those who came and made a statement then went and organized themselves and then got other supporters and then other lawyers and then drafters to help them draft this. And then a whole coalition was built around it. It was at my instance that what they were doing was not consistent with the laws of Ghana as we speak. For instance, the Attorney General has just confirmed it, that really the law says nothing about lesbianism. Okay? The law is focusing on men doing it to men. Okay? Right. So if you think that lesbianism is an offense, somebody says that lesbians have rights, and the person starts an NGO to advocate for the rights of lesbians, and you come and say, no, you won't agree. I said, no, you can't say you agree. You have to first make it an offense first, before you can start shouting you would agree. I was misunderstood. People say, oh, he supports gay lesbians. I said, no, I'm just a lawyer, and then if I see the law, I will educate you. I will explain to you what the law is. But today, all that they are doing confirms what I said. Because as you can see from the AG's opinion, he's confirming what I said, that these things are really not offenses. So you need to make them offenses first before you can prohibit advocacy around them. So that is basically what those people, if you recall, go and check the Hansard. It became a big issue. And I got attacked. I said, look, I'm just stating what the law is to guide you. So now they've gone and they've brought this bill, and this bill tries to cover all the loopholes that we have in our legislation. Otherwise, if you arrest two young ladies in a room, whatever it is they are doing, you actually have no provision in our criminal law today to go and prosecute them.
Wow.
You don't have any such provision.
Well, we've seen a number of prosecutions, yes, but it's all been mostly male cases. Dr. Ibrahim Anyas, and a few others. Those are references. But you've seen those proposed amendments that I just ran through. Does it strengthen this whole path?
Mr. Kasi, you're tempting me again. I tell you that I'll come to the debate fully.
Indeed. When
we have clients, even not clients, people that have shown their faces in public that, look, I'm gay and I'm being attacked. And so what I need to repeat here forcefully is that, please, as we do this, let's remember that we should not attack them. It still remains a crime that if you slap somebody, you shoot somebody, you hate somebody because you've seen him having anal sex, or if let me not use that example. You think he's gay because for anal sex being a crime.
It's not a crime, yes.
So because he's walking like he's gay or he's doing things that show that he's gay and it's so offensive to you, it's a crime. So a man dresses, he puts on lipstick, then he has earrings, okay, he has hair like a woman's hair, then he uses some parts as breasts, etc. So if he basically a guy dresses as a lady, he's doing things that I think these are gayish, so to speak, and you hit him or commit any other crime against, it's a crime. The police will prosecute you. It's a crime. So let's be careful. As I've said, when they show their faces, the debate will really will go 180 degrees. Yeah, because once they come, the Constitution will protect them. It's just that they don't want to, and so you see that it's become one-sided. It would have looked very beautiful if one of them was seated here. Indeed. And then making his case. And you see, then we can also contribute. but without a human being here, it's difficult to. Yeah, and look, and let me also put on record. No, I've acted for some privately. So, like, you go to police, they call you. Police, they've been arrested by landlords, taken to police station. I go, I help. But that's private. You want it legalized, come and sit at the table. Then, honorable, we can see what to do. But until then, but let's not attack them. That's the main message.
Alfred, I'm just watching your screen, and my brother, Kwame Jantua,
Yes.
is making a strong case there that doctors must explain dangers of anal sex
Right.
to deter people. I think that, and earlier on, Martin was talking about some professionals, including doctors, who are involved in this.
Yeah.
You know, and as part of the advocacy to discourage people in this ungodly act, the medical profession, they must also come and speak on this matter. There should be a debate, a discussion on these things, so that we don't entertain it at all. And like the way Ariga was speaking, the target is on the youth, these young ones who are coming. So if one of these discussions on the platforms, a medical doctor is invited to come and speak on these things and let our children know that, look, this area is an area that we should not entertain here, it will go a long way to help us. And let me commend you that because of the statement made by that member at the floor, that had led him to advise, educate, and those who were trying to say that, hey, you are in silent support of these LGBTQ, WWSYZ people, now it has turned into this development where a bill is being enacted into a law to make sure that we put things right in its perspectives.
We're going to go for a quick break, but I think that apart from the the intersex you've taken out, the queer, that's the Q, one of the Qs, has also been taken out, proposed to be taken out of the law, right?
Well, I mean, like
the
bill, yes.
I see. Anyway.
Because, you know, there are some things in criminal law, it's very difficult to define and prove and establish.
Okay.
And to be frank with you, right from day one, whilst I'm clear in my mind on the traditional issues of LGBTQ, the queer, I honestly am grappling to understand, you know. And, you know, criminal legislation, you need to be careful what you criminalize and what conduct you criminalize. You need to be able to define the conduct very, very well. I had issues with some of the things that we were defining because in some cultures, men wear cloths.
Yeah, in Scotland.
No, even in West Africa, I get a situation. You see men wrap cloths. Okay?
Yeah.
If I start wrapping cloths, am I queer?
Okay. I get a difficulty.
Are you getting the situation? So, yeah, you want to push, but you should be careful the boundary. And I've said this in this studio, that my attitude towards passing criminal legislation is always think about the law being in the hands of a bad man and what the bad man can do with it. Yeah. So if Martin Kwebu becomes...
we are currently experiencing.
Like Martin Kwebu becomes an attorney general and he's a bad man.
We'll go for the break.
And I wake up in the morning and wrap my cloth, then he just brings policemen. This guy is queer.
Stay with us. He is a member of this Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee charged with this particular work of looking at the bill. So I will spend quite some time on this. But after this quick break, these three revenue bills have now been passed or approved by Parliament, despite the earlier statements by the opposition or the minority and NDC that they were going to make sure that this bill does not pass. What happened? We have them in the studio. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly.